I have to make a living despite the drought conditions here.
You're taking prenatal vitamins. You also are using fentanyl.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
Celebrate 25 years of Inside Africa with Lupita Nyong'o and Angelique Kidjo.
When the word Africa comes up, what words come to mind?
Africa is laughter, love,
Song,
food,
hustling,
community,
red soil,
humanity,
stories,
life,
breath,
everything.
everything.
35 years of Inside Africa. Happy birthday to you.
Inside Africa on CNN in association with Zenith Bank. This is the Redwood Forest in California, home to some of the tallest and oldest trees in the world. Since 1918, more than 225,000 acres of these forests have been protected through the work of conservation groups, foundations, and the local community. Believing in a better future, be part of the movement. Find out more on cnn.com/call to earth in partnership with Rolex and its Perpetual Planet Initiative.
December 6th on CNN. It's a special night to focus on the good in the world.
Congratulations, you're doing incredible work.
Join Anderson Cooper and Laura Coates for CNN Heroes, an all-star tribute.
This means everything.
Meet the incredible honorees. Celebrate their extraordinary impact.
Thank you for joining us to honor the very best of humanity.
Find out who will be Hero of the Year.
These heroes are the best of the best.
CNN Heroes, an all-star tribute. December 6th on CNN.
In a divided America,
where do I fit?
You tell me, ask your partner.
Abby Phillip brings all sides to the table.
Can you name one thing you do differently?
The hypocrisy is so rank, folks at home. Classes in session.
To talk about the issues.
Congresswoman, it is false. The answer is zero.
The policies.
What is the Democratic Party about? Can you answer that question?
And the biggest debates to wrap up your day.
I hear what you're saying Trump believes in, but do you think it's a good idea?
News Night with Abby Phillip, weeknights on CNN. Caitlin Collins is your D.C. source, bringing you unprecedented access to the White House.
We're live from the center of the political universe,
Capitol Hill.
My Democratic source tonight is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. If you don't get what you need from Congress, can you achieve what you're trying to achieve?
And beyond.
We're live on the ground in Israel tonight about the Gazans leaving. Where exactly are you suggesting that they should go?
Follow Caitlin for in-depth political coverage and analysis, and watch her on The Source, weeknights on CNN.
Did the re-election of Donald Trump play any role in your decision to resign? Why do you need to study it? It sounds like you have the facts on your fingertips.
Great question.
You continue to fight for your name to be cleared. Why? Do you have any concerns about Elon Musk?
There really is much more that unites us as Americans than that which divides us.
A moment with huge consequences for the nation and the world.
Watch The Lead, weekdays on CNN.
It was winter 1975. Bill Gates was a sophomore at Harvard. Paul Allen was working nearby as a programmer.
You write in the book that Paul Allen, among the many things you guys did together, he actually introduced you to LSD.
Yes, he did.
How'd that go?
Well, he introduced me to booze and
I believe it was scotch.
And pot, and he had this whole Jimi Hendrix "Are You Experienced" thing. And he was way cooler than me, played the guitar, had a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I was about as nerdy, and just focused more on work. So yes, one of the experiences I had was that we took LSD a few times.
What is Bill Gates like on LSD?
About as crazy as anyone. A funny thing that happens later is that Steve Jobs comments in some interview that Bill Gates has such bad design instinct, it's too bad he never took LSD. And I'm like, come on, I got the wrong batch. I got the right software batch. You got the good logo, good marketing batch. God damn it, I wish I'd had both of them.
In early 1975, Bill Gates and Paul Allen used their programming skills to write one of the first computer software programs for a microcomputer, the Altair. The software instructions, written in the computer language BASIC, was punched onto that strip of paper tape. The tape was then fed into a teletype machine connected to the microcomputer. The company that made the Altair, called MITS, wanted to license their software. And so Bill Gates and Paul Allen set up their first office in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where MITS was located, and decided to call their new venture Microsoft.
Your office is in a strip mall. It's got like a laundromat, there's a massage parlor. It's not a place you would imagine the revolution to begin.
No, if you go there, it's about as podunk as you'll get. It's like, oh my God.
It's like a scene out of Breaking Bad is what I'm envisioning.
Paul Allen moved to Albuquerque full-time, but Bill Gates tried to continue as a student at Harvard while also building Microsoft.
I'm trying to figure out, can I hire enough people that I can stay in school? And so I actually do go back, but then it's not working out, and I've got to go be full-time at Microsoft. But I was torn because my time at Harvard was fun. I mean, you would sit up at night and bullshit about anything with all sorts of smart people, and the classes were good, the professors were nice to me. I loved Harvard.
He went back and forth, but finally dropped out of Harvard his junior year. Microsoft wasn't the only new company focused on personal computers. They quickly ran into others jockeying for position in this new world, like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, who'd founded a small company in 1976 called Apple. But they were focused on hardware, making the actual computers.
When we move out to Albuquerque, we're driving around creating computer clubs. And one of those that actually was one of the few that was there before we got there was called the Homebrew Computer Club. And that's where Wozniak is showing a thing called the Apple I. There were only a few of those ever made. At one point, he was going to write a full-blown BASIC, but he never got around to it, so they ended up buying the Microsoft BASIC.
The Apple II was part of the so-called 1977 Trinity, 3 of the very first personal computers to hit the market.
The Radio Shack, the Commodore, and the Apple II, the 3 big personal computers, all had Microsoft BASIC built into them.
3 of the first PCs out of the gate, and they all used Microsoft software. As the company grew...
That's ridiculous. I'm not using this thing. Somebody's confused. Somebody's just not thinking. I mean, there's no way.
We'll figure it out.
You guys never understood. You never understood.
Its young president was getting a reputation for being rude and hard-driving. This is Ed Roberts, the man whose company made the Altair, speaking with NBC in 1995.
He's always sort of arrogant, always hard to get along with, always sort of a know-it-all, even when he was wrong.
Allen would later write in his memoir, Idea Man, if you hadn't thought through your position or Bill was just in a lousy mood, he'd resort to his classic put-down. That's the stupidest effing thing I've ever heard. He went on to write, he was growing into the taskmaster who would prowl the parking lot on weekends to see who'd made it in.
You write, my social side would be slow to develop, as would my awareness of the impact I can have on other people. But that has come with age, with experience. Your dad said you were mean at 9. Your management style was criticized by some. Do you see that as a continuation of you as a kid, the way you are built?
Well, I think you develop a way of dealing with your own mistakes, like, oh, God, that's so stupid, or, oh, I should have worked harder on that. Then as I create Microsoft and I'm hiring people, I'm sort of applying my toughness on myself to the people who are working for me. And it took me a while to realize that's too harsh of a style for most people. So yes, I had to moderate the way I manage myself to be more motivational, and particularly as the company gets big, year by year, I have to learn to grow into this CEO role, that eventually I'm managing tens of thousands of people. And I made plenty of mistakes along the way. I was lucky I, got a bunch of people who, by example, helped me make that evolution.
Coming up,
A major milestone.
the man who helped orchestrate the first computer revolution weighs in on the next, the AI revolution that's already underway.
This is the most profound technical advance in my lifetime. It is greater than personal computers.
Does it scare you at all?
Yes.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper is a 5-time Emmy winner for long-form journalism. CNN's best journalists share deeply reported stories.
How does it feel to be labeled a conspiracy theorist?
Am I?
That's news to me.
Are K-pop stars discovered or are they made?
People still have to make a living despite the drought conditions here.
You're taking prenatal vitamins. You also are using fentanyl.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
I like winning on the field, but it's even more fun winning on Deal Dash.
Lori won $2,000 Tiffany earrings for just $1, and Joseph won an iPad for just $6. There's millions of fast auctions, so try today at DealDash.com for $50 of free credit and your first win guaranteed.
After Homoglow cleaned our place for $19, we fired our old housekeeper. Homoglow tackled everything, from our kitchen to our bathroom, all our laundry. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19.
There are amazing things that are happening all over the world, things that can make our lives better. That's the goal of my podcast, to try and find the secrets to a longer and happier and healthier life, and then we bring those secrets to you. Listen to Chasing Life wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh, there are big explosions taking place in Kiev right now. We need to get our flak jackets on. Come on. You can see Evan Gershkovich is in there. Hi, Matthew from CNN. Are you holding up all right? These troops are Russian airborne forces. They were engaged in a firefight. Please close the skies over Ukraine, he begs. There are still many people who are coming out to pay their last respects to the Russian opposition leader.
There's always hope.
We've come to this village in southeastern Nepal, which is full of Harawa Charawa people. They're bonded labourers.
We have thousands of people. They need us to help them.
Are you still optimistic?
The best is in front of us.
I had heard that the lavender fields of Provence were something to behold, but I wasn't expecting anything as spectacular as this lot. Jean-Pierre speaks almost no English.
Bees. C'est les abeilles.
And my Duolingo French is coming along nicely.
Lavender.
Lavender. Lavender is as much a part of the identity of the south of France as the sun and the beach. The flower has grown wild here for hundreds of years. Lavender est classique.
Oui, mais là vous écrasez.
Oh,
je pense que c'est dans les veines.
I think it's in my veins, he tells me. My family has been here for 300 years.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a de plus beau que ça? Regardez.
What's more beautiful than this, he asks. The sound of the bees and the smell.
3, 2, 1, here it is.
Bill Gates' intelligence and relentless drive helped fuel the personal computer revolution.
Our vision is that there will be a personal computer on every desktop, and it will be the key tool for the information age.
Microsoft, the company that started as an idea between two friends at a Seattle high school, is now in the top 15 of Fortune 500 companies and one of the biggest tech companies in the U.S.
You're not somebody who looks back a lot.
That's right. Whenever we have anniversaries, I'm always like, well, let's just talk about what we're going to do in the next period of time.
But as Microsoft is about to turn 50 and Gates is about to turn 70, he is looking back. He recently talked with students at his old school, Lakeside.
Hi. You know, if I hadn't been lucky enough to come to Lakeside, there's no way, I would have found myself at the beginning of the computer age, understanding software and understanding that computers would improve very rapidly. I met Kent Evans here, I meet Paul Allen here.
Had Kent not died, do you think you would have gone into business with him?
Yeah, almost certainly. I mean, it's very hard to predict, but that's our childhood brainstorming was we were going to go and do something together.
Would there have been a Microsoft?
Well, it's hard when you change things. You could end up going down a different path.
Gates stepped down as CEO of Microsoft in 2000 and announced he'd focus on the foundation he'd started with his then-wife, Melinda. It's now known as the Gates Foundation after his divorce in 2021.
The idea of inexpensive tools to protect you from getting HIV.
Gates says the foundation has given more than $100 billion to solve problems related to global health, education, and climate change. HIV and polio were what he chose to highlight in a conversation with President Donald Trump when they met shortly before his inauguration.
What was your time at Mar-a-Lago like?
President Trump couldn't have been nicer. He asked questions. I chose the HIV work and the polio work as the two things I wanted to highlight, that not only could he support great work that was ongoing, but that he could accelerate the innovation. He could, help get polio eradicated. He could help get this cure for HIV to be a real thing.
Thank you very much. We had a busy day.
Since that meeting, the new president has put a freeze on almost all global spending, and with the help of Elon Musk, is trying to shutter U.S. aid, the organization that administers American humanitarian efforts overseas. All this has put a U.S. government program, which Gates supports, called PEPFAR, in jeopardy. Over the past 2 decades, it's invested more than $100 billion to prevent and treat HIV/AIDS in developing nations, and has saved the lives of more than 20 million people.
If PEPFAR stopped, what would happen?
You'd have up to 10 million deaths if it was stopped abruptly. I thought the argument would be about, could we cut it by 10% over the next several years?
Elon Musk, he's called USAID a criminal organization. He talked about it's a radical left political psyop. To you, what is the importance of USAID and the U.S. giving aid to people in need around the world?
Well, USAID plays a super important role in dispensing our aid budget, which is less than 1% of the government budget. Overall, it's work that saves millions of lives and helps strengthen relationships for the United States. And I'm not against some degree of tuning, but having all those people not come into work and characterizing the whole thing in a negative way, I'm a little disappointed in that.
While Gates is focusing on his global philanthropic efforts, Microsoft, the company he co-founded, is focusing on artificial intelligence.
The AI is becoming more accurate, but this is the most profound technical advance in my lifetime. It is greater than, chips, personal computers,
really?
Phones,
it's bigger than
internet,
computers.
Bigger than all those things, because its degree of matching and exceeding human intelligence, both in a sort of for white-collar type activities, but also through robots for blue-collar activities, it'll be a profound change agent. And it is moving faster than I expected. This is pretty novel and both exciting in terms of taking the shortage of doctors and teachers and helping with that, but also reshaping how we think about jobs and work.
Does it scare you at all?
Yes.
What scares you?
There's a great meaning and purpose that comes from these jobs. As the computers get better and better, understanding what role they play versus humans, and do we shorten the work week? Do we let some people not work at all? It's pretty profound. So over the next 5 years, almost entirely good things, but as you get into the 10 years and beyond, it's so powerful that how we shape it and maintain, purpose, values, coherency, this is a big challenge for humanity. The basic level of
A big challenge already being faced by kids at Lakeside, kids fascinated by the future of computing.
I'm Kellen. I'm one of the leaders on the Andromeda AI project.
Yeah, I don't know what an Andromeda is.
We were sort of seeing that a lot of the top AI tools are all very expensive and can be hard to access for a lot of students, and so we sort of created a unified platform where students can have, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all of the top models. So we were sort of trying to bridge the divide between the students who had access to those tools and who didn't have access to them.
What would you tell somebody now in high school who has the same aspirations, has the same intelligence that you had at that age?
In my day, it was easy to envy the kids who were naturally sociable and, great football players or those things. And, people even say the revenge of the nerds, that, those of us with down in the computer room, we sort of...
Have you watched that movie, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Working with a computer's great. I mean, it's godlike in a way.
Were you a consultant on that movie?
Just by my life, that's all.
Okay.
It's nice now that you can see different learning styles or approaches can be rewarded if you're, able to discipline yourself and, focus on the right things. It can become a superpower.
These little creatures love to relax, but they are also very hard workers. This year, a family of beavers helped restore a wetland ecosystem in the Czech Republic, doing what humans had planned and saving over $1 million. No concrete, no cost, just nature doing its thing. Be part of the movement. Find out more on cnn.com/call to earth, in partnership with Rolex and its Perpetual Planet initiative. There's a creative wave happening in Qatar, where artists are reshaping the country's cultural identity. From a pearl diving heritage to bold contemporary designs.
We have come such a long way.
This month, we discover an open-air gallery and see how Qatar steps into the forefront of global art.
I think that now is the time where we're finally being given the platform.
Walk of Art, this weekend, only on CNN.
News races around the world at breakneck speed.
Once that story aired, it blew up.
It is actually an example of sometimes journalism, it's led to something good.
Amanpour, weekdays on CNN.
If you can keep your head when markets all around you are losing and you can't see a way through, if you can trade and not make money your master, meeting triumph and disaster in equal measure, if you can run with the bulls and not be afraid of the bears, for when we come together, we will make sense of it all. And what is more, my friend, you will be profitable, for you are indeed watching Quest Means Business.
Imagine a world in which humans can harness the animal evolutionary superpowers of hibernation.
I think most people just think of hibernation as sort of deep sleep, but it is far more than that.
I meet the researchers breaking down the science of this near-dormant state to help fight cancer, treat heart conditions, and more.
If we use hibernation at the cellular level, we can use them for preserving organs for the transplants.
Join me, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, on Vital Signs.
Vital Signs with Dr. Sanjay Gupta, only on CNN.
I'm Valeria Leon in Mexico City, and this is CNN.
The story is in Washington, D.C. One of the National Guard members shot near the White House has died. We'll bring you the latest on the investigation. The story is in Hong Kong, where the deadliest fire in decades has led to arrests and calls for change. We'll go live to the scene. And the story is in Turkey, where Pope Leo is meeting with Catholics on his first overseas trip. Welcome to all of you watching us here in the United States, Canada, and around the world. I'm Kim Brunhuber, and today for Alex Michelson. President Donald Trump says U.S. Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, one of the National Guard members shot near the White House, has died. He says he's spoken to Beckstrom's family and is open to attending her funeral. The president made the announcement a short time ago while on a Thanksgiving call with service members.
Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia, one of the guardsmen that we're talking about, highly respected, young, magnificent person. Started service in June of 2023. Outstanding in every way. She's just passed away.
Law enforcement held a dignified transfer of Beckstrom earlier. A source says Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was in attendance. Now we're learning new details about the suspect, who was also wounded and taken to hospital. A U.S. official tells CNN Rahmanullah Lakanwal was vetted by intel agencies and determined to be, quote, clean on all checks. He's an Afghan national who began working with the CIA around 2011. President Trump says his administration is now looking into whether to deport his family. At his direction, the U.S. will also re-examine all green cards issued to people from 19 countries of concern, according to a top immigration official. The president says he will, quote, permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover. And he says he'll remove anyone who isn't a net asset to the United States. Meanwhile, the federal prosecutor leading the shooting investigation says it's still too soon to reveal a motive.
A lone gunman opened fire without provocation, ambush style, armed with a .357 Smith & Wesson revolver. One guardsman is struck, goes down, and then the shooter leans over and strikes the guardsman again. Another guardsman is struck several times.
President Trump says Sarah Beckstrom was savagely attacked Wednesday, along with Andrew Wolf, who's still fighting for his life. Now, CNN spoke to some of Wolf's neighbors who say he's a great guy. Listen to this.
He'd get the shirt off his back to somebody. He's just a really good guy. We always looked out for each other. Best neighbor you could ask for, really. It really caught us off guard. Really close to home.
A very sweet kid, hard worker. Like I said, sending best wishes to him and his family. Hopefully, things work out good for him. He's a hard worker, good kid. Like I said, goes to work every day.
CNN's Brian Todd reports from the scene in Washington.
We're getting some crucial new information on how the shooting unfolded, mainly because we're finally getting access to the shooting scene for the first time. Going to take you through it right now. This is the area around the Farragut West Metro Station where the shooting occurred. Officials say the shooter came around a corner, presumably this corner, and started opening fire on the National Guardsmen. This is a planter, part of the evidence we're talking about here. That's an exit from a bullet that went in here and exited here in this planter. And coming over here, I can show you, officials have said that one of the guardsmen tried to take cover behind a bus stop shelter. And this is that bus stop shelter, because you can see this panel of glass here, but this panel has been taken out. You can see shards of broken glass there and here where it's been fastened. Unclear if it was shot out or whether officials might have just removed it to process the evidence. In this planter, you can see a section of it has been removed. Going to show you a little bit more about that in just a second as we walk over here. Another planter here has a makeshift memorial to the victims, flowers and an American flag planted. And yeah, talking about that planter that had the section removed, going to show you why. You have bullet holes here and here of that planter that was removed. So some traces, some fragments and evidence of the shooting remain here in the day after the shooting occurred. We have information on the shooter, the alleged shooter himself. He's identified as a 29-year-old Afghan national, who Jeanine Pirro, the Attorney General for Washington, D.C., said lived in Bellingham, Washington, with his wife and they believe 5 children, that he drove across the country with the intent of coming here to D.C. Sarah Beckstrom had been in the National Guard for about 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years, according to officials. Andrew Wolf had been in the National Guard for close to 6 years. They had both been deployed in Washington, D.C. since August, and that was, of course, when President Trump ordered the law enforcement surge here in Washington, D.C., where they started to send in National Guards troops from all over the country. More than 2,000 of them ended up being here, but those 2 individuals were part of the West Virginia National Guard and here since August for that deployment. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
Multiple agencies are working the sprawling investigation into the shooting. FBI Director Kash Patel says they're looking into any known associates the alleged shooter has in the U.S. or overseas. Listen to this.
There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces. We are fully investigating that aspect of his background as well, to include any known associates that are either overseas or here in the United States of America. That is what a broad-based international terrorism investigation looks like.
And joining me now is CNN law enforcement contributor Steve Moore. He's a retired supervisory special agent with the FBI. Thanks for being here with us on what is just a tragic day here. What goes through your mind as a former agent when you hear that a service member has died in what appears to be a targeted ambush on American soil?
Well, it's crushing. I mean, this is kind of your worst nightmare. What's striking to me is that this individual drove from Bellingham, Washington, according to what I'm hearing, drove from Bellingham, Washington, all the way to Washington, D.C. to attack these 2 soldiers. And so this is obviously premeditated. It is planned. And so as an agent, I want to be in that room finding out who he was communicating with, whether he was communicating with somebody overseas, whether he was communicating closely with people nearby, everything that he was doing, his entire electronic footprint.
Yeah, and before I get more into the investigation itself, just still talking about the victims here, and especially Sarah Beckstrom. I mean, she was only 20 years old, had been in the National Guard for just over 2 years. I mean, does the loss of someone so young in this kind of attack hit kind of differently for you?
It hits differently because I don't think they had any inkling that they would be targeted in this. Sarah was with a military police company, an MP company. I think it was the 863rd or something like that. And so she was a trained military police officer, and they handle on bases, they handle standard law enforcement, just like uniformed police in the outside of bases. And it's just when somebody that young is ambushed and murdered, it kind of makes you wonder about the depravity of human beings.
Yeah. So you started talking about the investigation there and looking for answers here. I mean, from an investigative standpoint, does the fact that one victim has now died change how law enforcement and investigators will kind of approach this case?
No. All it does is change the numbers on the penalty phase. This was from the beginning a full court press on a counterterrorism investigation on this Afghan who did the shooting. This, from minute one, I'm fairly certain the FBI believed that this was targeted and therefore political, likely, and therefore terrorism.
Yeah, likely terrorism, and President Trump called the shooting an act of terror. I mean, it is officially at least too early to know the motive. Does the president announcing that sort of complicate things at all for investigators?
Anytime any politician says something about an ongoing military case or investigative case, whether it's FBI or any other organization, it's not going to be helpful. Anybody talking about the case is not going to be helpful if they're talking about it from an authoritative or an acclaimed authoritative point of view. The FBI can have their hunches, their beliefs, and statistical probabilities, but that doesn't mean it is. I mean, a good example is yesterday when the governor of West Virginia said that both of the servicemen had died. This is not helpful.
The president has questioned the vetting process because the accused worked at the CIA. He would have been vetted then in terms of when he was allowed into the country. A senior U.S. official has told CNN he was clean on all checks. I mean, what questions does that raise to you about the process when it comes to vetting individuals who worked with U.S. forces overseas?
Well, obviously we have an obligation to people who have put their lives on the line to help American soldiers overseas, not to leave them there to be at the hands of the Taliban at that point. But when you bring them over, you can't just say on the date he left Afghanistan, left the life, the culture, and all the people he knew, and moved to Bellingham, Washington, which has the opposite climate, in a country he'd never lived in before. On that day, he seemed normal. Well, you're going to change drastically when you go through a situation like that. And I heard earlier that they were doing annual vetting of these people. The problem with that is a good, strong vetting takes almost a year. So I don't believe, I can't understand how that could have been adequate. And in this case, certainly it wasn't.
Yeah. Listen, really appreciate your expertise on this. Steve Moore, thanks so much.
Thank you.
The death toll from the high-rise apartment fire in Hong Kong has risen to 94, with more than 200 people still unaccounted for. Now, investigators don't yet know what caused the fire, but they're looking at whether bamboo scaffolding and flammable construction materials may have helped the fire spread so quickly. Hundreds of people are now homeless or staying in shelters. Hong Kong's chief executive says each household affected by the fire will receive about $1,200 and get a social worker to help with recovery. CNN's Hanako Montgomery joins me now live from Hong Kong. Hanako, I understand there are still some flames there. Take us through the latest. What's happening there?
Yeah, Kim, I'm actually just outside the apartment complex, and I just want to show you what I can see behind me. Right now, there aren't any water hoses coming from fire trucks, and it looks as though the fire has largely been contained. According to authorities, they do say that the fires have been under control, though sometimes fires do pop up again in small pockets. Now, of course, just around me in this area, there are dozens of fire trucks to really respond to, again, any pockets of fire that might pop up in the coming hours or so. But again, it seems the situation has largely improved from what we saw yesterday and, of course, Wednesday when the fire first broke out. Now, Kim, I think you mentioned that there are survivors and those who have evacuated at emergency shelters. And let me just tell you, I mean, we were at some of those emergency shelters yesterday, and the community spirit there is absolutely astounding. I mean, we saw boxes and boxes of babies' clothing, ladies' clothing, emergency food, water, pet food, really anything that these evacuees and these survivors need. The community was really there to provide that for them. And I mean, the spirit behind this group and this community is absolutely astounding. Now, Kim, as you mentioned, the authorities are still trying to investigate what exactly caused this fire and what also caused it to be so deadly. There are questions about potentially the construction material being used to renovate these buildings and also some of the bamboo scaffolding that were encasing the buildings. And again, as you know, at least 3 people have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter, but authorities haven't really updated since providing that information. Now, we can also say that firefighters and search and rescue missions were currently undergoing a Friday morning local time. They were going from unit to unit to try to find any remaining survivors. According to the authorities, on Friday morning, they did say they were able to locate some survivors, but they haven't really provided any details beyond that. So there is still fear that at least 200 people still remain missing. And we don't know if those individuals are safe, if they're in a secure location or not, or if authorities are still tending to those injuries, Kim.
All right, appreciate that update. Hanneke Montgomery in Hong Kong. Thanks so much. President Trump says the United States will strike inside Venezuela, quote, very soon. Now, he made the statement while speaking to members of the U.S. military on a Thanksgiving phone call. Listen to this.
And in recent weeks, you've been working to deter Venezuelan drug traffickers, of which there are many. Of course, there aren't too many coming in by sea anymore, if you probably noticed that. We'll be starting to stop them by land also. The land is easier, but that's going to start very soon. We warned them, stop sending poison to our country.
The U.S. has killed more than 80 people in strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean. The administration has offered no proof that the vessels were carrying drugs. Pope Leo XIV is warning that conflicts on the global level are endangering humanity. The pontiff made the remarks during an impassioned address to civic and political leaders in Turkey during the first overseas trip of his papacy. CNN's Christopher Lamb has more from Ankara, Turkey.
A ceremonial welcome for Pope Leo XIV in Turkey. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan received the pontiff on his first foreign trip. Pope Leo is honouring a promise by his predecessor to visit Turkey and Lebanon, 2 Muslim-majority countries with ancient Christian communities, carrying a message of peace and unity between different branches of Christianity, as well as the Muslim faith.
The particular occasion of my own visit, the 1700th anniversary of the Council of Nicaea, speaks to us of encounter and dialogue.
God is good all the time.
Peace and compassion are the common values Erdogan says are shared with the pontiff. The two also discuss specifics, focusing on immigration, poverty, and the conflicts gripping the world, with nods to the late Pope Francis and his outspoken political views.
We have always deeply appreciated the steadfast stance of our esteemed guest and his predecessors, particularly on the Palestinian issue. As the large family of humanity, our greatest debt to the Palestinian people is justice.
Leo's visit to Turkey and Lebanon, a chance for him to exercise the papacy's soft power to meet with world leaders and to address the leaders of Turkey directly, to emphasize his concern about growing conflicts around the world, the need for countries to talk to each other, to dialogue in the cause for peace. A chance to articulate his own brand of papal diplomacy.
In the aftermath of the tragedies of 2 world wars, which saw the building of large international organizations, we are now experiencing a phase marked by heightened level of conflict on the global level, fueled by prevailing strategies of economic and military power. This is enabling what Pope Francis called a 3rd world war fought piecemeal. We must in no way give in to this. The future of humanity is at stake.
Before heading to Istanbul, the Pope met civic and religious leaders in Ankara, with Turkish culture on display, paying tribute to the founder of modern Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. With the trip coinciding with Thanksgiving, the American-born Pope brought the spirit of the holidays to the plane.
To the Americans here, happy Thanksgiving.
It's a wonderful day to celebrate. It's so important today that the message be transmitted in a way that really reveals the truth and the harmony that the world needs.
And received holiday-themed gifts, home-baked pumpkin pies from American journalists, and a baseball bat from his favorite team. On this trip, the first American Pope acting as a bridge between different cultures. Christopher Lamb, CNN, Istanbul.
The U.S. is about to kick off two-track negotiations over its peace plan for Ukraine, but Russia's president is already indicating he's not willing to make any concessions. We'll have that story ahead. Plus, the fires in California earlier this year had a devastating impact. We'll look at how a non-profit is providing mothers and children the essentials they need. Those stories and more coming up. Stay with us.
Excellence on your journey. Kumho Tire.
There's a creative wave happening in Qatar, where artists are reshaping the country's cultural identity. From a pearl diving heritage to bold contemporary designs.
We have come such a long way.
This month, we discover an open-air gallery and see how Qatar steps into the forefront of global art.
I think that now is the time where we're finally being given the platform.
Walk of Art, this weekend, only on CNN. This is Uganda's Bwindi Impenetrable Forest, one of Africa's most biodiverse ecosystems. Home to mountain gorillas, once nearly extinct. But thanks to local heroes and communities, their numbers have risen from 300 to nearly 460. A beacon of hope for conservation. Be part of the movement. Find out more on cnn.com/call to earth. In partnership with Rolex and its Perpetual Planet Initiative. Celebrate 25 years of Inside Africa with Lupita Nyong'o and Angelique Kidjo.
When the word Africa comes up, what words come to mind?
Africa is laughter, love,
Song,
food,
hustling,
community,
red soil,
humanity,
stories,
life,
breath,
everything.
everything.
35 years of Inside Africa. Happy birthday to you.
Inside Africa on CNN in association with Zenith Bank.
This
Explore Africa with CNN, where 54 nations create the fabric of this rich continent. This is really complex. Discover business,
economic trends. Clearly, you're seeing something here.
nature, and culture, and the stories shaping Africa today.
Exported to markets around the world.
The energy is amazing. Feels so good to be here.
Why, particularly in Gaza, why is leadership failed here? The allegations, I mean, this is chilling, stomach-churning stuff.
Yes, it is. What happens, Maria Corina Machado, what happens if you're arrested?
Where do you find empathy with some of these autocrats?
Have you used ChatGPT to write any songs?
Not yet.
How does his story shape all of you who are the future?
CNN World Sport.
Non-stop action year-round.
I have a lot of things to give to the football.
All the major events.
I love where the game is going right now.
What does it take for me to be even better?
And tournaments.
The emotions sometimes are impossible to control.
The latest highlights.
Women's sport is having a moment that it should have always had.
And exclusive interviews with your favorite coaches and players. We're going to keep this thing rolling.
Iraq.
Don't miss CNN World Sport.
Only on CNN. CNN Academy is turning 5. From Abu Dhabi to the world, we're empowering the next generation of journalists.
Welcome to CNN Academy. We have 140 students from all around the world.
We've delivered more than 1,000 hours of immersive learning and hands-on training.
It's been an incredible week.
Partnering with leading media organizations and universities from across the world, we bring the newsroom to the classroom. Find out more at academy.cnn.com.
They're all heroes. But only one can be this year's CNN Hero of the Year. Visit cnn.com/heroes to meet the honorees. and see how they're making the world a better place. Then cast your vote on who should get the award. You get 10 votes a day, every day. Who will be the CNN Hero of the Year? The choice is yours.
Efforts to advance the latest U.S. peace proposal for Ukraine will shift into overdrive in the coming days. The U.S. Army Secretary is expected in Kyiv at the end of the week for talks with Ukrainian officials. Dan Driscoll already met President Volodymyr Zelensky last week. Now, the exact wording of the latest peace proposal is yet to be revealed. It was modified last weekend in Geneva. Ukraine and the Europeans pushed back against the original plan that reads very much like Moscow's wish list. President Zelensky says Kyiv is hoping for progress. Here he is.
Already this week, at the end of the week, our team, together with American representatives, will continue to translate the points we secured in Geneva into a form that puts us on the path to peace and security guarantees. Next week, there will be important negotiations, not only for our delegation, but also for me personally, and we are laying solid groundwork for those talks.
But the Russian president is suggesting Ukraine should accept its losses and warning they could get worse. Vladimir Putin is expected to meet U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff in Moscow next week. Claire Sebastian reports.
Well, after a week of frenzied diplomatic activity, mainly by the U.S. and Ukraine, this was a detailed rundown of exactly where Russian President Putin stands. And the bottom line, nothing has changed. Yes, he made positive noises, saying the U.S. peace proposal as it stands can form the basis for future agreements. He even said he's prepared to put in writing that Russia has no aggressive intentions towards Europe. But on the most difficult issue of all, territorial concessions, he had this to say.
Once Ukrainian troops withdraw from the territories they occupy, then the fighting will end. If they don't withdraw, we will achieve this through military means.
To clarify, Ukraine cannot occupy, as Putin puts it, its own sovereign territory. But this suggests, although it's not 100% clear, that Russia still wants the whole of the Donbass, including the part it doesn't occupy. And there's another big obstacle here. While Putin is ready and willing to receive Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy, in Moscow next week, he still says he won't do a deal with Ukraine's leadership because, as he's argued before, it postponed elections, which it can't, of course, hold under martial law, and is therefore illegitimate. So we have two tracks still. Ukraine says it expects to continue work with a U.S. delegation this week, and the U.S. and Russia will talk next week. But still no clear path to bringing the two together. Claire Sebastian, CNN, London.
We'll be right back with more. Please stay with us.
Society suffers because we build products and services that don't solve problems. They create more problems than they're solving. Every couple of years, the tech industry discovers the period for the very first time. One tech company in particular, a really big one, that some of you are probably wearing their fitness tracker in this room, discovered the period for the very first time 5 years ago and allowed people to track 10 days of their period. How is it that you discovered the period and in your whole health tech company, in the design stage, in the testing stage, in the marketing stage, in the customer research, I don't know, you didn't have a single person that had ever met anyone that ever had a period. Then it was only when it got into customers' hands that a couple of folks said, hang on, this doesn't work. So can you imagine the waste of resources, the waste of potential, the waste of time, just because no one had anything of value, supposedly, to contribute to those conversations?
Celebrate 25 years of Inside Africa with Lupita Nyong'o and Angelique Kidjo.
When the word Africa comes up, what words come to mind?
Africa is laughter, love,
Song, food, hustling,
community,
red soil,
humanity,
stories,
life,
breath,
everything.
everything.
35 years of Inside Africa. Happy birthday to you.
Inside Africa on CNN in association with Zenith Bank. There's a creative wave happening in Qatar, where artists are reshaping the country's cultural identity. From a pearl diving heritage to bold contemporary designs.
We have come such a long way.
This month we discover an open-air gallery and see how Qatar steps into the forefront of global art.
I think that now is the time where we're finally being given the platform.
Walk of Art, this weekend, only on CNN. This is the Redwood Forest in California, home to some of the tallest and oldest trees in the world. Since 1918, more than 225,000 acres of these forests have been protected through the work of conservation groups, foundations, and the local community. Believing in a better future. Be part of the movement. Find out more on cnn.com/call to earth in partnership with Rolex and its Perpetual Planet Initiative.
This is CNN.
This is One World.
The world's top headlines with some of the world's biggest players.
Stories that captivate from two unique perspectives.
What does that mean for wider escalation?
One World with Zain Asher and Biana Golodriga. Weekdays on CNN.
On Laura Coates Live, we cover it all. From legal battles.
At least one juror has now been excused.
Political showdowns.
How much you think that weighs on the president?
And the conversations in between.
Wayne from Washington. Wayne, what's your question? Will you take this all the way to the Supreme Court?
I'm not refuting a syllable of what you said.
What do you say to people who are looking to find their voice?
All the news, all on Laura Coates Live. Weeknights on CNN.
Imagine a world in which humans can harness the animal evolutionary superpowers of hibernation.
I think most people just think of hibernation as sort of deep sleep, but it is far more than that.
I meet the researchers breaking down the science of this near-dormant state to help fight cancer, treat heart conditions, and more.
If we use hibernation at the cellular level, we can use them for preserving organs for the transplants.
Join me, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, on Vital Signs.
Vital Signs with Dr. Sanjay Gupta, only on CNN.
Join me, Larry Madowo, as I introduce you to Africa's trendsetters. See how they use their talent, resources, and passion to make a difference on the continent. This is African Voices Changemakers.
With standout fashion and an undeniable presence on screen, Ebuka Obuyuchendu is inspiring young men to aim higher.
Being a part of changing things in whatever way I can is something I hope to do a lot more of.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN.
I'm Kylie Atwood at the State Department, and this is CNN.
Welcome back. I'm Kim Brunhuber. Let's take a look at our top stories. One of the two National Guard members targeted in a shooting Wednesday has died. President Donald Trump says U.S. Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom was, quote, outstanding in every way. U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf is still in critical condition following surgery. They were both attacked while on patrol just blocks from the White House. The death toll has jumped to 94 in that Hong Kong apartment block fire. More than 200 people are still unaccounted for. One official says firefighting and rescue efforts have taken longer than expected because the inferno was much worse than first thought. Bamboo scaffolding and flammable construction materials may have helped the fire spread so quickly. And the death toll from severe flooding and landslides in Indonesia is now at least 61. Heavy rain from a tropical cyclone triggered landslides which wiped out roads and left many residents stranded. Emergency crews are using boats and helicopters to reach them as well as deliver aid. Diplomacy is shifting into overdrive this week as talks for a peace plan in Ukraine continue. For more on this, we go to Brisbane, Australia, where we're joined by Mick Ryan. He's a retired Australian Army Major General and the author of The War in Ukraine, Strategy and Adaptation Under Fire. Thanks so much for being with us here again. So, Putin said Thursday this framework could be the basis for a deal, but he also warned that fighting will only stop when Ukrainian troops withdraw from the territory they hold, and if they don't, Russia will take it by force, in his words. So before we get to whether they can or not, I mean, what do you make of that response, the tenor of it?
Well, I think that what Putin is doing is continuing to manipulate the Trump administration by holding out the prospect of a peace deal. He does not want to be seen as arbitrarily dismissing it, so more sanctions and more weapons aren't sent to Ukraine. But I don't think there's anything very optimistic in his words. Putin thinks he's winning on the battlefield, and I think he would prefer to continue the war rather than negotiate.
Okay, so let's talk about the battlefield then. The most contentious issue from the original plan was requiring Ukraine to hand over parts of Donetsk that it still controls. What does the current battlefield reality in Donetsk tell us about whether Ukraine could actually defend what it still holds there?
Well, the reality is that even with all of its many tactical, technological and strategic advantages and manpower advantages, Russia really hasn't been able to leverage this into any decisive gains this year. It hasn't gained a lot of territory. It's still fighting Pokrovsk after nearly a year. And the other fortress cities in Donetsk still are occupied by the Ukrainians and are likely to be held by them for some time to come.
So Ukraine pushed back on that original deal, which as I mentioned earlier, seemed very